Most drivers believe danger on the road comes from speed, mechanical failure, or reckless behavior. But history and modern accident data points to something far more ordinary and far more dangerous: compromised visibility. Every year, countless crashes happen not because a vehicle fails, but because the driver is effectively blind for a few critical seconds. Rain hits, headlights scatter, glass turns into a glowing haze, and reaction time collapses. That is where control is lost. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The battlefield is not the road. It is the thin layer of glass in front of you. And most people have already lost that battle before they even start the engine. This is not about buying another product or following trends. It's about understanding a piece of knowledge that stretches back thousands of years, tested in survival conditions long before modern highways existed. By the end of this, you will know exactly why your windshield fails you, how ancient chemistry quietly solves the problem, and how to combine that knowledge with modern tools for a result that is both practical and reliable. The surface of your windshield is not as smooth as it looks to understand the problem. You have to stop thinking of glass as perfect. It only appears smooth because your eyes cannot see what is happening at a microscopic level. In reality, every windshield is filled with tiny imperfections, minute pits, grooves, and irregularities formed during manufacturing and made worse by time. Every drive adds damage. Dust carried at high speed acts like sandpaper. Wiper blades drag particles across the surface. Heat expands the glass. Cold contracts it. Over months and years, the surface becomes increasingly uneven, even if it still looks clear. This matters because of how water behaves. Glass naturally attracts water due to its chemical structure. Instead of forming neat droplets, water spreads into a thin, continuous film. That film bends and scatters light, especially when headlights hit it at night. The rougher the surface, the worse this effect becomes. But the real problem is not just the texture. It is what fills those microscopic imperfections. Invisible contamination is what actually blinds you over time. Your windshield collects layers of contamination you cannot see. Hard water leaves behind mineral deposits. Exhaust fumes coat the surface with oily residue. Tree sap, airborne pollutants, and even chemicals from your car's interior settle onto the glass. This buildup does not look dramatic in daylight, but at night or in rain, it transforms the entire surface into a light-scattering mess. Headlights no longer pass cleanly through the glass. They explode into glare. Contrast disappears. Depth perception weakens. This is why drivers often feel like their vision suddenly collapses in bad weather. It is not sudden at all. It is the accumulation of months of invisible contamination reaching a tipping point. Modern coatings help, but they do not solve the root problem. In the late 20th century, hydrophobic coatings became widely available. These products work by changing how water interacts with the surface, encouraging it to bead up and roll away instead of forming a film. The concept is sound, and in many cases, these coatings genuinely improve visibility. But there is a limitation that often goes unnoticed. These coatings sit on top of whatever is already on the glass. They do not remove contamination, they simply cover it. Over time, they wear away. Rain, friction, and environmental exposure gradually strip the layer. Once it is gone, the underlying problem remains exactly as it was before. This is not a failure of the technology, it is a misunderstanding of its role. Protection only works when the surface underneath is clean. Ancient chemistry offers a different approach long before modern coatings existed. Civilizations relied on simple chemical principles to solve survival problems. One of the most important substances they used was vinegar. Vinegar is a diluted form of acetic acid, and its effectiveness has been documented across centuries. Roman soldiers used it to make questionable water safer to drink. Physicians in ancient Greece applied it to clean wounds. Across Europe, it became a standard tool for sanitation and preservation. The reason is straightforward. Acetic acid reacts with mineral deposits, particularly calcium carbonate, which is one of the primary components of hard water buildup. When these substances meet, a chemical reaction breaks down the solid deposits into compounds that can be easily removed. This is the same type of material that forms scale in kettles and pipes. It is also what quietly accumulates on your windshield over time. When applied correctly, vinegar does not just clean the surface, it dissolves the mineral layer that ordinary washing leaves behind. It removes the foundation of the problem rather than covering it. Cornstarch plays a different but equally important role. Cleaning alone is not enough. Even after chemical treatment, residue can remain. This is where cornstarch becomes valuable. Cornstarch has been used for centuries as a finishing agent. Armorers use similar materials to polish metal. Textile workers relied on it to refine fabrics. Its usefulness comes from its structure. When mixed into a liquid, cornstarch forms a suspension of extremely fine particles. These particles act as a gentle, abrasive, soft enough not to damage glass but effective enough to lift stubborn residue. At the same time, cornstarch absorbs oils and moisture. Instead of smearing contaminants across the surface, it traps them, allowing them to be wiped away cleanly. This combination, chemical breakdown from vinegar and mechanical refinement from cornstarch, creates a result that neither ingredient can achieve alone. The method works, but only if it is done correctly. This is not a shortcut or a trick. It is a process that depends on discipline. The first step is preparation. The windshield must be physically cleaned before any treatment begins. Dirt, dust, and surface grime need to be removed with water and a mild detergent. Skipping this step will only spread contaminants around. Once the surface is clean and dry, the solution can be applied. The mixture must be balanced. Too much starch leaves residue. Too little reduces effectiveness. The goal is a uniform suspension that can interact evenly with the glass. After application, time matters. The solution needs a brief period to react with mineral deposits. Rushing this step reduces the chemical effect. The final stage is where most people fail. Proper buffing is essential. Any remaining residue will scatter light and make visibility worse, not better. The glass must be polished until it is completely clear. Done correctly, the difference is immediate and noticeable, especially in challenging conditions. There are limits, and they matter. No method is perfect, and it is important to be honest about what this approach can and cannot do. The effect is not permanent. Environmental exposure will gradually reintroduce contamination. Regular maintenance is required to preserve results. Care must also be taken with surrounding materials. Rubber components and painted surfaces can be affected if the solution is left in contact for too long. Attention to detail prevents unintended damage. Most importantly, this is not a solution for structural issues. Scratches, chips, and cracks cannot be fixed with cleaning. Those require proper repair. Understanding these limits is what separates practical knowledge from false promises. The real advantage comes from combining old and new. The most effective approach is not choosing between traditional methods and modern products. It is using both in the correct order. Deep cleaning with vinegar and cornstarch restores the glass to a near original condition. It removes the contamination that prevents coatings from performing properly. Once that clean foundation is established, a modern hydrophobic treatment can be applied. On a truly clean surface, these coatings adhere better and last longer. Their effectiveness increases because they are no longer competing with hidden buildup. This layered approach mirrors principles found throughout history. Strong structures are always built on properly prepared foundations. The same logic applies here. Why this knowledge still matters, what makes this valuable is not just the result, it is the perspective it provides. Simple materials, widely available, and inexpensive, can solve problems that are often addressed with more complicated solutions. The knowledge behind them is not new. It has been tested over centuries in situations where failure carried real consequences. That knowledge remains relevant because the underlying principles have not changed. Materials behave the same way today as they did in the past. The difference is whether or not we choose to understand them. When visibility improves, reaction time improves. When reaction time improves, risk decreases. This is not theoretical. It is practical, immediate, and measurable. A clear windshield is not just about comfort, it is about control. Bringing it all together, the next time rain hits your windshield and visibility starts to break down, understand what you are actually seeing. It's not just water. It is the interaction between light, surface texture, and accumulated contamination. And it is something you can control. You do not need to rely entirely on products or marketing claims. You can address the root of the problem using knowledge that has been refined across generations, then enhance it with modern tools that build on that foundation. That combination is where real effectiveness lies. If this kind of practical, history-backed knowledge matters to you, make sure you stay connected to the channel. Subscribe, share this with someone who drives regularly, and keep exploring the kind of insights that turn overlooked details into real-world advantages.